Okay, hello everybody, Ninjaz here, and taking a bit of an oddball video out here just to go over some of the new stuff that's come up in the recent Allods patch. I believe it's patch 7? Anyways, so gonna get started here. There's quite a bit to go over, so I'm gonna try to make sure this isn't a super long video. I just kind of wanted to go over the updates and stuff. So, obviously one of the first big changes is that the level cap has been raised to 70, which gives all of us endgame players a little bit more work to do. So if you were up to 65 before, hey, enjoy, you got 5 more levels to get up to. Also, if you haven't logged in before the patch, you'll notice that your character's build has been reset, or I should say if you haven't logged in since before the patch. So everybody's been reset, and prepare to sink a huge amount of time into rebuilding your character, because there's a lot of stuff to do there. Character builds are way different. There's all kinds of new abilities and all kinds of stuff there, so you're going to be spending a lot of time reading and rebuilding your characters. But a lot's changed, and we'll go over some of that stuff, or at least the more significant stuff, in a minute. Gear progression has also been overhauled yet again. So before we had the glyph system, which I think was one of the more recent iterations that was added. That's gone now. They've gotten rid of that. Apparently they didn't like it or something. Anyways, it's supposedly a little bit more straightforward now. I don't have a huge amount of first-hand experience with it. But yeah, there you go. So gear progression is overhauled again. Now, as far as the storyline goes and progression with leveling up, most of the fancy new stuff is going to kick off after you get a letter from the mailman telling you to go see all the people in Idness's tower. If you're an Empire player, I imagine it's something similar with Yasker's tower. Now, if you haven't already though, I strongly suggest that you head back to Ferris and finish up the quests there. Unlike the previous patch where you could go from 60 to 65 in like literally just a couple of hours, leveling to patch 7 is, or leveling in patch 7 is really, really slow. And I've run into spots where there were no quests for me to do simply because I wasn't a high enough level. So you may be chomping at the bit to get to the new stuff, but I really recommend going back and finishing up the stuff at Ferris. It'll give you a little bit of an experience edge so that hopefully you can get over that hump and keep on doing quests without running into a grind patch. Anyways, back at Idness's tower, there's some crazy demon hunter they want you to talk to, and a bunch of stuff happens. I don't want to give away too much stuff, but you'll get a cracked waystone, you use it, and that's where everything starts, or I should say, that's where everything in this new bit of content starts. If you do the stuff on Ferris first, you'll see a little bit more of the back-end information about what led to this. So, again, go to Ferris, finish all that first if you haven't already. Anyway, soon enough, you're going to be hopping all over Sarnat to deal with these architects, which are a whole new threat that you get to fight, enjoy. You may want to give yourself a bit of time to play for the story content, and quite a bit of it is single player. So there's some lengthy bits where you don't have access to a teleporter. Make sure you've got a little bit of time to play. It's not too bad. It'd also be a good idea to pick up your church pots before heading out because, again, lengthy time period where you're going to be out and away with no access to a portal. Alright, now there are a bunch of new areas and things like that. Going through and doing the storyline stuff will cover most of that. You'll see a lot of that stuff yourself. There's really not a huge amount of new, amazing areas. I think there are some more Allods that they've added that are both multiplayer and single-player Allods. And, yeah, like a lot of this content is still new for me too. I haven't gone through and finished leveling off a character to 70 yet. Working on it, but it's a work in progress. So I have yet to experience some of this stuff. Alright, we're going to move on to some class changing stuff. Now, as I mentioned before, pretty much everything is different. A couple of the classes weren't hit too bad, particularly I think paladins and summoners were not too bad off. But there's a lot of different changes that have hit just about every class. One big thing overall is that most classes have their own special resource to use for things now, instead of just like energy or mana like they used before. All classes have now these aspects, which you can choose from as well. It's a type of skill, and it kind of defines what role your character or your build is going to play in a party or whatever. So let's see here. First up, warriors. Warrior tanks that are now using the aspect of defense take their damage over time instead of every hit, or at least they take a portion of it as overtime damage instead, which kind of allows them to tank a little bit more effectively because they don't just get all of the damage right up front. They also get some pretty nifty abilities that'll pull enemies in towards them, and you've got a pretty good setup now, I think possibly better than ever for being a really good warrior tank. Warriors are also now the only class that uses energy, or I should say the only class that still uses energy, and there's no more stony resilience. Yeah, I know, I'm pretty sad about that too, but you have that damage over time thing now instead of stony. Healers no longer use mana. Yeah, really. Like, go nuts. You'll get energy for bigger spells in the form of fanaticism by, get this, casting more spells. Also, you have a whole bunch of healing teleport skills. Like, what the hell? But, yeah. Now, building a warden backup will likely cause insanity, crippling self-doubt, insomnia, or sudden head explosions. Also, pets will play a more minor role in combat than they did before. Good luck. Wardens are also the only class that still uses mana. Scouts are no longer ability spamming maniacs. You can almost take a nap between their attacks, really. They get ridiculous amounts of AoE now, if you choose the right skills, and it's kind of almost like doing a 180 flip. Slow attacks, big AoEs now instead of fast attacks and single targets. They also have a special resource they use for abilities called gear pieces instead of energy. You'll be doing a lot of added effects to your attacks between cooldowns as well. Paladins overall seem to operate pretty similar to how they were, although cannons are more important than they used to be, and you won't be flipping through those shields quite as much as before. Possibly a little bit faster though with the aspect of defense versus the aspect of assault. Oh, and no more energy. That's another positive there. Mages no longer use mana. Like, what? It's mages. Mages don't use mana. Okay. They rely on their elemental cycles to cast things now. Don't ask me how it works. I don't even. Sais no longer use mana. Instead, they get a mental stress, like anti-resource kind of thing that makes it harder to cast things the more stressed you get, I guess. It's another class that I don't really have a whole lot of familiarity with, so yeah, there's that. Bards no longer use energy, but now they have this tempo thing that can be increased or decreased with certain skills. Faster tempos allow you to use bigger skills, so on and so forth. Engineers, too, no longer worry about energy and instead rely solely on their reactor temperature for how they cast things. Alright, now that's a pretty brief overview on like the skills and things that are changing a little bit. It's not so much an in-depth look at the skills. I just want to give everybody a quick little like, hey, some new stuff that's come out. So check it out, Allods Online, patch, I think it's 7. It's interesting. The game is quite a bit new, and again, if you haven't logged in for a while, you probably ought to check it out. They did send everybody a Water of Death and Droplets of Death so that you have about a week to get in there and mess around with your build. So take a look at it, check it out. As always, thank you for watching. Feel free to like, comment, or subscribe on the video, or give me some feedback and comments. What do you think about the new patch, what it's done with the classes, and so on and so forth? Let me know down below, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.